In downtown San Jose, California, two historic landmarks stand at the heart of the city. For well over a century, parking has changed, and yet access to these landmarks remain the same.
Because of the plaza, I believe this intersection remains the core of San Jose for most citizens and visitors. The use of the plaza for Christmas in the Park has bonded many modern people to these buildings. Christmas in the Park is the only downtown for thousands of people each year, as opposed to the people who work downtown every day. These two buildings are unique because of their grandeur. They represent a time in San Jose when public buildings were worth the added investment in architecture, size, materials, and craftsmanship. They both provide a sense of place to the area. They create a welcoming streetscape.
Judge and San Jose historian Paul Bernal. Our team partnered with Nissan Research Center of Silicon Valley to gain a deeper understanding of the impact the incorporation of autonomous technologies would have upon this environment.
We concentrated upon the historic district composed of the Cathedral Basilica of St. Joseph, the San Jose Museum of Art, and the adjacent Park Plaza. Both the museum and the church are California historical landmarks listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Looking at change through time to a landscape and the public's attachment to a shared space can elicit nuanced interpretations applicable to modern development. Maps and historical records from several decades, located in the California Room in Martin Luther King Jr. Library and History San Jose, illustrate how development has repeatedly occurred around the area. Our team employed a mixed methods approach to understand how parking has changed around the church and the museum over time. We considered what is at stake in preservation or transformation in regards to parking and human interaction with cars and other modes of transportation. This included informal interviews conducted with Nadine Nelson and Judge Paul Bernal. Our team created a survey distributed via social media to determine how people visit the church and the museum, their associations with the sites, and stories they have of their site visits. We documented parking behavior through photographs and video recording outside the church and the museum. Since completion of construction in 1885, St. Joseph's has established itself as the face of San Jose. San Jose at this time was characterized by wide dirt streets along which horses and coaches could be parked. Specific parking lots had not yet been developed, and photos of St. Joseph's during this time indicate the church had no formal zone for parking. Nadine Nelson vividly recalled walking to church was an important aspect of attending services. This was not only due to the lack of parking spaces around the church, but also stemmed from the communal aspect of attending church services, in which walking provided an opportunity to socialize with other families and business owners along the way. The museum has also been viewed as an important contribution to the overall aesthetic quality of downtown San Jose. The 1884 Sanborn maps show the parcel where the museum now stands was part of San Jose's historic Chinatown. This is the only Sanborn map that indicates the presence of Chinatown in the project area, as the 1891 map shows an empty lot. First erected in 1892 as the original federal post office of San Jose, 110 South Market Street is still remembered as a library by many elderly residents, despite the construction of Martin Luther King Jr. Library 4 blocks away. Just like St. Joseph's, the Museum of Art has stood unchanged during periods of redevelopment in downtown San Jose. Efforts have been made to mimic the building style of the museum, especially the clock tower, which was permanently damaged in the 1906 earthquake. The 1915 Sanborn shows stables in the vicinity, but not within the immediate area of the church and where the museum now stands. A later 1950 Sanborn map indicates that when the post office changed into the public library, the stables turned into a parking garage. Redevelopment seems to occur on a regular basis in downtown San Jose, but continuously avoids affecting the intersection of San Fernando and Market Streets. Renovations intentionally avoided the entire plaza and historic district. Only one permit from 1965 indicated that the church submitted a permit for a parking lot during these periods of redevelopment. This action was likely denied as there was no indication of approval on the back of the permit application. Additionally, the construction of Cesar Chavez Park in 1993 eliminated much of the available parking directly across from the museum, but helped establish a historic zone in which parking behavior is tailored to a variety of traffic conditions. Our team developed a survey to gain the public's perceptions regarding the area. A quarter of respondents stated they have only visited these locations once, but roughly 60% have visited these locations a few times. Many respondents shared stories of specific events, such as Christmas in the Park and field trips, which brought them to these locations. A large number of respondents, however, mentioned that they would visit these sites when walking, either taking a detour from their route or as they walked by to nearby work or classes at San Jose State University. San Jose also seems to be greatly impacted by the aesthetics of the park, museum, and St. Joseph's, with over half of all respondents stating that aesthetics influence their feelings of attachment to the downtown San Jose area. In total, a third of respondents stated that difficulty in finding parking affected their mode of transportation. Furthermore, 55.9% of respondents stated that traffic and parking availability influences their decision to visit these locations. Corroborating this, only 28.3% stated that they would use another transportation method to visit the locations if parking was not available. This was corroborated by the photo and video documentation in which we noted attendees to the sites seemed to primarily walk, either taking public transit or utilizing parking garages a block or more away before arriving. We recorded footage related to the church as well as in front of the museum. During all observation sessions, misuse of loading and handicap zones for an extended period of time occurred, despite the prevalence of metered parking around the park plaza and intersection. Our team has concluded that if 10% of all vehicles in the area are autonomous, parking will only become more heavily regulated as autonomous vehicles become more widely used. Parking in downtown San Jose is almost exclusively based on monetary transactions. Very few free spots exist in the city, so anyone visiting either the church or the museum must pay an associated fee if they choose to drive. Since parking locations have not changed drastically over time, the locations of parking garages will not change. However, with the increase of autonomous vehicles, prices for meters and parking structures may increase as the city continues to encourage walking over driving in downtown San Jose. Limited access to parking has the potential to impact public transit. Tourists and Bay Area residents that frequent the downtown area may experience increasing frustration with the rise of cost in both parking and public transit. The most vulnerable are low-income Bay Area residents with limited money to spend on transportation and parking. Such parking restrictions will force low-income driving residents to either allow more time for travel due to the decreased parking, or will force them to rely more on public transit rather than personal vehicles, which also forces these residents to budget their time more strictly. Street parking may also become further limited, with less spots dedicated to parking and more dedicated to pick-up, drop-off zones. Our observations indicated manually operated vehicles often abuse these zones and would negatively impact the continuous flow of autonomous vehicles, ultimately creating an increase of overall traffic in the area. This was especially noted in the loading zones in front of both the church and the museum during our videotaped observations. In a scenario where autonomous vehicles are primarily utilized by taxi services, street parking will be reduced as passenger loading zones expand. This has already been seen at San Jose State University, where street parking around campus has been reduced in favor of implementing bike rental areas and a zip car parking area. Parking has become more hidden and highly regulated over time. Parking lots have moved underground and have become highly regulated parking structures. The museum and the church especially may see a decrease in visitors due to the hassle of navigating the reduction of parking available. Conversely, the city of San Jose may see increased revenue if parking costs rise as parking becomes more limited. Because autonomous vehicles are a new technology, they will be subject to recalls or accidents. Auto insurance companies may charge more for these vehicles, leading to a high cost for those who own them and a high profit for those companies themselves. The owners of parking garages and lots stand to make a hefty profit as the demand for parking spaces increase. Future evaluation research can provide a rich understanding of the effects on the community, as well as the efficiency of policies related to parking and traffic regulations. From our Diachronic study, we can understand that though the amount and types of parking available in the downtown area will need to be changed with the introduction of autonomous vehicles, it will be done in such a way that the historic landscape will not be impacted.